there is an appeal.
It does not.
Stacy asked me why.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the August meeting of the Greencastle Common Council. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome to the August meeting of the Greencastle Common Council. Linda, can you call the roll, please?
Councilor Adam Cohen, Councilor Stacy Langdon. Here. Councilor Steve Fields.
Here.
Councilor Tyler Wade.
Here.
Councilor Mark Hammer.
Here.
Councilor Gary Lemon.
Here.
Councilor Dave Murray. Looks like he's coming in the door.
Here comes Dave. Okay, do we have any public petitions or comments for anything other than is on the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none, I would like to take the opportunity to call up Brian Briscoe, who is the new director of the Putnam County Library. If you want to come up, Brian, you'll be on TV, so you'll really be able to introduce yourself to the community.
Oh, the pressure's on now. I just wanted to be here and introduce myself. I'm Brian Briscoe. I'm the new director of the Putnam County Public Library, and I'm so grateful for all your support. You were great for us on July 13th when we had allowing us to block off a couple of streets to hold a big fundraiser there. Just so grateful for all your support, and I look forward to working with you.
Well, we've got a great library in this county, and we appreciate your efforts, and we welcome you to the community.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Okay, we do have several special requests this evening. The first one is for a noise ordinance waiver request from the Elks Lodge. Is there a representative from the Elks Lodge? Okay. Come up. Come on up. And this is for an outside movie night.
Yes, we're having a movie night from, I think it's 8 to 12, I believe. It'll be a double feature, open to the public. I'm not sure, shouldn't be a whole lot of noise to it, but I guess laughter or whatever, it's Animal House or something, I don't know. I just got to be a spokesman. And then our second one is our second annual grill off. It's in Jerry Gerton's honor, one of our members that passed away, and that will be from 11 to 11, and there will be probably some music to that one.
Which we did not receive that one, so.
I had two, but they were exactly the same. So I wonder if
This is the one on the grill off. They were both submitted at the same time.
Yeah.
They're just different dates.
Okay, so it's October the 13th from
11 to 11.
11 to 11, and it's also a noise ordinance waiver.
Right.
I think we've granted that one before.
Yes, we did that before. Movie night
Sorry.
is the first one outside that we're trying to do something different. But I don't think there'll be a lot of problem with noise or anything like that. I'm also getting a copy of the stuff from excise to chief of police, so he'll be aware of what's going on also on both events.
Okay, great.
So that's pretty well it, just with their blessings. We've always been pretty good with the city, trying not to behave ourselves.
Okay. So we have two events. We probably handle them separately. The first one, let's do the approval for the August 9th outside movie night, run roughly from 7 to midnight, and this will be in the Elks parking lot there. So
August 9th. Today is the August the 9th.
So the event's August 18th.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I make a motion that we approve the outside movie night noise ordinance request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve outdoor movie night. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then the second one is the grill-off event and that is for October 13th, roughly from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and that is also a noise ordinance waiver request. Have a motion to
So
approve
moved.
that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
You're good to go. We'll
Thank
get you
you.
copies of
Appreciate it.
paperwork. Thank you.
Appreciate your help and stuff.
Our next request, excuse me, is from DePaul University. Steve Setchell is here to make that request. It looks like it's dedication for the new Robert G. Bottoms Alumni and Development Center.
Thank you, Mayor Dory. I appreciate the council's consideration of a proposed street closure on Friday, October 12th. It's about 3-point font on this form down there, but we're requesting starting at 9 a.m. through 4 p.m. for startup and takedown and so forth. And as the mayor said, that's the dedication of our new Alumni and Development Center, starting at 1:30. We'll have a brief ceremony there in front of the building, and then tours and an open house open to the public that afternoon. So I hope you'll join us.
I move that this request be approved.
Second?
Motion and a second to approve the request for the opening of the Bottom Center on October 12th. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Great, thanks for coming by, Steve.
Steve, I got one question for you. It's off that, where you tore down the Charter House, what are you gonna put there?
I
plan
believe
right
that's
now?
going to be parking.
Parking. Okay, I just wondered. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they've submitted their plans, and
Okay.
they're all good to go for the construction.
Okay. All right.
Next item for special request is a special event, again, a noise ordinance waiver. This is for the Fraternal Order of Eagles, and if you would come up. Are you Robert Bitzer?
I'm Brian Camplin, actually.
Oh, okay.
He couldn't be here, he can't drive at night, so.
Oh, okay.
Council, thank you. We are wanting to have a luau party in our back pavilion. That's been gated off and has been approved by all the fire marshals, the city, everything. Just kind of a dedication to bring it into the community. We were wanting to have a live band that will end at midnight, from 8 p.m. to midnight, and everybody's invited. It's just a way to get it out there, that what we do for the families and what we donate to everybody to help, so.
Have you notified or
We have
neighbors
notified,
and-
we have notified the police department, we have notified the fire department and the sheriff's department.
What about neighbors?
We will do that this afternoon.
Usually, like when there's a lot of residents around, we ask that, just as a
I
courtesy.
mean, it won't be it's not gonna be real loud, but
Yeah, you guys have a lot of houses and residences around.
I will
there.
talk to them, we will talk to them tonight.
Okay. Yeah, anytime before,
Okay.
is fine.
That would be on August the 25th at our address at 207.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the noise waiver request for August 25th. Any further questions? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, great,
Thank you all.
Our next item of business is department reports. We do have some of our department heads at the National Night Out this evening, and a couple of our department heads, their father passed away, so they're on bereavement leave. So I think John and Scott are the only department heads here, but reports were provided, and if you have any questions of either of those gentlemen, I'm sure they'll be glad to come up and answer them.
Scott, could you come up for a second? Certainly, I'm glad we have a much better night for National Night Out than
Oh,
we
it
had
was,
2 nights ago.
it was gorgeous and a good crowd and wonderful community participation. Great, in fact, I had somebody mention to me, they were from another community, and they said that we do a good job here in Greencastle.
Oh, good.
appreciate the compliment.
In your report, Scott, you talked about the technical review committee and looking at Crown equipment in their parking lot.
Right.
And it caught my eye that Crown is considering potential to incorporate pollinator garden as part of a plan which would count toward our clean communities goals. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
I can. Unfortunately, I have to say that they withdrew that request, so it's somewhat moot. However, the pollinator garden is simply an opportunity to create, take areas that otherwise have to be mowed continually and put them into native flower gardens that attract bees, that attract butterflies, helps to kind of enhance our green community standards. And that is one of the goals of our Clean Communities designation through IDEM. And we're very glad that Crown simply, the timing didn't work out for them. They're still very interested in this. They're looking at Ascena as another industry that has a pollinator garden right next to the highway there. So we're having a nice corridor of pollinator gardens.
It's always a goal for us.
Right.
Having been married to the former mayor of the Green City of the Year, these things jump out at me.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Little did I know that my front yard is a pollinator garden.
Is it because it doesn't get mowed regularly?
No, because I got tired of the grass not growing and we just put flowers out.
There is a difference between a stand of weeds and
No, that's
appropriate
not what
wildflowers.
I could give a program on that, but I won't do that tonight. So.
Scott, you're working with a couple of property issues right now.
A couple.
Couple dozen?
One's on the collection, a metal, a business or something?
We are trying to work with property owners who do scrapping, where they collect metal from around the community and hold on to it long enough to take it to a recycling center. You can do that if you're keeping them in the 2 accessory structures that you're allowed on your property. You can keep scrap metal in a storage facility and then take it periodically. But our problem is that a lot of people store them in their backyards, out in the open, out in the front yards. A lot of times that will collect rainwater, which is a very significant problem now that we've identified West Nile virus mosquitoes in the community. So removing that sort of scrap, which also then makes it hard to keep properties mowed, which then draws vermin, rodents. So it truly is a problem. We also have a situation where people keep their scrap on a trailer that they park out in the street. Sometimes they get it properly parked, sometimes they don't. Metal falls off into the street. So it is truly a problem we're trying to help residents deal with.
Scott, got 2 things. So one, for the benefit of the public, there's going to be another BCA hearing next Tuesday about the Ivy Trace facility, also at 6 p.m. here at City Hall, correct?
Correct.
Are they planning to allow for additional public comment at that time, or is it really just more discussion?
That'll be up to the board to make that determination, but it is definitely open to the public.
Public to attend, yeah. My second question, so at the meeting on Tuesday night, folks, the BCA seemed concerned, or at least talked about, the idea of our code being outdated or additional terms that we could provide clarification for. I assume that's something that we probably need to sit down and think about more carefully going forward, but.
Yeah, we've talked about that and about a whole, putting together an entire committee, like a task force on this whole subject.
Don't call it committee, they don't get anything done, task
Yeah,
forces,
right,
I like that, yeah.
On this entire subject, not just a detox center, but
In all areas of the code.
garden issue in
Yeah.
the community and how to handle it and from various different standpoints.
I would point out we're not alone as far as a community that has suddenly realized, wow, these facilities we need, but our definitions, our zoning districts don't always fit that type of use. So many communities are scrambling. I've been
sending emails back and forth with the Indiana Planning Association on how some small to medium size, Indianapolis is not always a good example on how to do things, so we're looking at other examples.
We're also going to research the licensing agencies to see if they've got some sort of industry standard definitions, as well as state and federal code, so that we can minimize the, sort of the argument, you're doing this or doing that, and, we'll look at the licensing issue and see if there's anything there that can perhaps help us out.
And I know you're talking about the budget, which is not my area, so that's why I brought this part of the code to be doing some of that research while you guys are talking about budget, because that's not mine.
And after this, I'll be downstairs trying to type up the minutes from the 3-hour meeting. So.
5 hours.
3, I was gonna say 3, yeah. Well,
Was it 5?
5 hour.
4:45.
maybe it'll only take you 3 hours to write the minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
So,
I would like to say, at the BZA meeting, I appreciate the fact that all the people who attended were very cordial with each other. Nobody got into any kind of argument. People listened. It was really, for something that was somewhat of a contentious issue, people were very good about listening to other opinions and expressing their opinion and doing a great job of it.
so
Now-
Scott, is it your opinion, I couldn't make that meeting, I was at the school board meeting before that.
Right.
Is it your opinion that the current code allows for that use?
That is what is discussed at the BZA meeting.
Okay.
In different areas. And unless you want to go into another 3-hour
No,
conversation
no,
about it.
I do not. I was looking for a simple answer, and obviously there's
There's
not
no
one.
simple answer. Well, there is, but there isn't. But
Right.
No, there is. It does. It allows.
Thank you, Scott.
I shouldn't joke. It's they're true.
I wish I had Rod's presentation, but I don't.
Okay, next item is some of our reports, and I'll try to keep mine fairly crisp. We'll be discussing the budget a little bit later, and that's part of the normal juggling process of our various funding sources, in adjusting budgets, but we'll get into that. Several of our projects continue. Hopefully, the weather will cooperate, and we'll get Grady Brothers out here to finish up Franklin Street. And then they've got some other punch list kind of items to do, but otherwise, they're moving along. We will be putting out our sidewalk project out for bid probably next week after it goes to Board of Works. Whispering Winds continues to move forward. I think 30 or 31 of the 50 lots are spoken for, which is really pretty good considering they just opened that up really last October, November. Other things coming up, we've got the community conversation with Steve and Gary on August 20th. I forgot to write down the date. Scott, what day is the big Walnut meeting, watershed meeting?
August 22nd at 6 p.m. at the Farm Bureau office.
Okay. We've got a watershed meeting that we're kind of co-sponsoring. Music Fest on Saturday the 25th. Obviously, the students are beginning to filter back in with what the first day of class is August 23rd, 24th, somewhere in there that week.
Something like that.
Taste of Putnam County is first Friday on September 7th. And then Airport Appreciation Days will be September 8th and 9th. The traffic light at 240 and Percy Julian is working. I don't know if they've got all the timing issues worked out yet. I looked like they were still had to put the detector loops in. So that's a nice addition to the community. It's probably going to take a little while for everybody to get used to that. And so that's a quick synopsis. Continue to work on our stormwater grant, working on the downtown furniture. The samples are out front. We did have the contractor come in and kind of give us some additional information about the powder coating process that will help us out with the rest of them, so continue to move forward.
Bill, you were supposed to meet with that new YMCA director?
We did, yes, and they are in the process of kind of re-looking at their business plan and making sure. We have tentatively determined that if we can get the option for the site signed, we'd like to, and I think it's just being reviewed by their attorney.
Let's say we can get the option signed.
Yeah,
That's
but
not the problem.
But what we want to do is probably schedule a public meeting sometime in September, because the board there at the Y would like to, make sure the public is, still enthusiastic about it. And then they will make a formal board decision at their October 25th board meeting.
You mean their board has yet to decide whether they're going to take on this?
Well, remember, we're asking them to make a major commitment. We'll provide the facility, but we're asking them to take on a 20-year commitment to run it, because we do not have the financial resources to run it, and they have the expertise. They're running 2 facilities now, and, so as a board, they have to make sure that they.
So, okay, so we're going to be in position, we're going to commit to buying land and building a, we're not in that position?
We have an option pending agreements with these other parties.
Okay, that's what I wanted to be sure. Okay.
How did the
No,
meet?
we would not do that, Steve.
I was going to say, that it would sound like the cart was getting ahead of the horse here.
On the other hand, they didn't want to agree till we got the site chosen too.
Yeah,
so-
it's all, yeah. No, but it's like people sitting at a four-way stop.
Exactly.
My turn? I'll have the majority of discussion here when we get to the budget, but I did get a phone call from my friends at the State Board of Accounts, so they will be coming Monday to audit only 2016, because it does require a federal audit. So it's kind of the last of the stellar. So one of the big ones in that was the facades 2, and the fire station and some of those. So that's kind of our last kind of our review for the stellar projects. So they'll be here Monday to start that. I said, oh, good, you'll do 17 too. No, they're not doing 17, only 16. So I told them we're gonna have record time, get you in and out in 3 weeks. So let's see if we can make that happen. She laughed.
They gave us 2 days' notice to get all the paperwork. And
That's all right, we're good.
Each file, the files are thick.
That's all right, we have them here. So we'll get her going and have her in and out and be good. So that's all I have.
The wildflowers at Forest Hill Cemetery are in bloom, and they are beautiful. I think that was a very successful project. And if you get a chance, get out there and take a look and do some walking. It's wonderful. I had one other thing. Bill, I think in years past, we had the opportunity for residents, if they wanted to have their sidewalk replaced, to match or pay half of it. Or I had someone ask me about it. How does that program work, and is it ongoing?
Have them give us a call. That'll be the first one in 3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Because I had someone ask me, yeah.
I can say we've done it for 10, in the 10 years that we did it, maybe 5 people? Maybe 5.
But
Maybe
if someone
in
would,
10 years.
would take us up on it.
Yeah, we'd be more than
you
happy
will
to
pay
talk to
half
them. Yes,
if they
yeah.
pay half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we're working with a commercial property that they've offered to talk to us about it, so we're trying to work with them.
But it would depend on if it's in great condition, we probably would not be redoing it.
And if it's in really, really bad condition, maybe,
It'll be done on its own, yeah.
Yeah, it could end up being done anyway.
Right.
If it's,
We have had some people want us to bring their properties up to ADA standards and raise our sidewalks and, that kind of thing. And that probably wouldn't be something that we would do if they could do it themselves, so.
Okay, I'll pass it on.
I have nothing at this time.
Just 2 things. So one, school started, which is exciting. As the person on the council who lives closest to the new transportation center, it's been an easy commute the last 2 mornings leaving. So kudos to Jeff and Danny and the folks over there for getting everybody in and out, which has been good. The other thing I would just say, I've really appreciated, I think I've been contacted more by constituents in the last month than I have at any other period of time in my time on the council, and have been a whole host of issues, from quails and chickens in people's backyards to properties that had fallen in disrepair to street signs and folks driving too fast. And I really appreciate hearing from folks. I think everybody on the council would as well. It makes our jobs a lot easier to be able to make decisions that impact the city when we hear regularly from constituents about their concerns. And so I have appreciated that, and I would say keep them coming. Keeps me busy, but Abe went to school. We don't have high school sporting events to go to anymore, so I have like a whole new life now.
Where do you head off to school to?
Well, the school up north.
That's what I figured.
He didn't have a choice, though, Mark.
Valparaiso?
Yeah.
And we appreciate any inquiries that council members may get, just, forward them our way, and we'll distribute them to the department heads. Sometimes we can get them taken care of fairly quickly. Other times we have to order a sign or something. It might be a couple weeks or whatever the lead time is. And then sometimes we have to refer people on to another issue. Like, for example, we received several complaints about 231, and we obviously have to refer those up to NDOT, for example.
So my question is, were they complaining to you about you driving too fast?
No.
That's good.
Yeah, no complaints about that.
Bill, I'm wondering, the sidewalk, the improvement there on the north side of Franklin Street by west of Jerry's Foreign Auto, is that done?
No, we will be adding a railing.
Good. I was hoping that it would be similar
we'll
to
be
the
adding
South
a railing.
Indiana Street. Good. All right.
The problem we ran into there, which is not the only place we have that issue downtown, but is in order to stay in compliance with ADA, we can't do a cross slope on the sidewalk. It has to be, I think, less than 2%. So that's basically flat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the height of the building entrances versus the height of the street, we've got too much height to work off across the width of the sidewalk. So the easiest way was to put a step in, but we'll have to put a railing there because of the traffic.
Sure.
So,
good. I was hoping that was the case.
Yeah, it's just one of those awkward areas. And
Sure. Well, it
similar
helps.
situation across the street next to Music on the Square, but.
Okay.
And, you may recall from years ago when we had several streets where we had steps in that we were able to remove.
Yeah. They're 2 steps up to get onto the curb from Washington Street or Indiana Street, so. Well, good. That's a big improvement.
Part of that project, we were able to improve ADA access along there to several businesses and things as well.
That's good. All right. Thank you.
Well, they're back. This next weekend is when the last of the first-year students come in, and the first day of class is the 22nd of August. I took my wife to the airport. She flew to D.C. on Sunday. I'm picking her up tonight, and it's like a new city, right? This city's on the move. There will be a new restaurant I'll have to show her. There's a new traffic light, which I went through. And Charter House is gone, so so I'm not sure she'll recognize the town. So that's all good news, right? The city is moving forward.
Mark, I'm going to call on you here because you did some interesting analysis. Chris Myers was in from Rural Transit, and you took the time to kind of break down the usage of rural transit, and the email that you sent says Greencastle has 59.5% of the ridership, and you went on to detail some of the rest of that. I'd like you to comment on that because it became very clear that 40% and maybe more,
probably more,
is coming from outside of Greencastle. So when we talk about funding rural transit, there's some implications for the rest of the county, it seems to me, when it comes to that issue.
Yeah. So, Dave slipped this to me as he came in this evening, so I was like, okay, I didn't really recall because this was about a month ago that we did all this. It's July 18th. So I quickly went back to the email and that Chris had sent us, and we were 59.5%. The one thing I wonder about, though, I mean, if you're looking at Greencastle, is it just in the city, or is it 46135, or is it township included? So I think if it includes township or the fringe area and stuff like that, then our our ridership is actually less than 60%, much less than 60%, probably closer to 50. It was kind of interesting that the way they broke it down was, Cloverdale was next highest, but then there was Heritage Lake, Bainbridge, and Groveland, which are all in Monroe Township, I believe. Heritage Lake could be Floyd, too. Floyd and Monroe. Well, Fincastle is also, I think, and that was listed on there. And then there was Roachdale, and it had 36 riders. And I was like, well, is there no participation at all from Reelsville, Putnamville, Bell Union, Russellville areas? So I don't know whether this was everything, but of the ones they had analyzed, we were about 60% Greencastle. But so my suggestion was I would suggest that the township trustees for at least Floyd and Monroe be contacted to see if they would provide some support, as well as the county council, since at least 40% of the ridership is from other than the city of Greencastle, and probably more, because Greencastle probably incorporates Edgelia and other areas that are outside the city limits, and they're calling it Greencastle. So
And that's become such a crucial transportation option
Sure.
for certain people that's the reason I wanted to bring it back up again tonight in light of your analysis.
yeah.
Chris was at the commissioners' meeting on Monday to give a similar presentation as she gave to council last month. So I think there's probably several of us that will poke the commissioners a little bit for some increased funding next year.
Okay. Good.
The Ernie and Brad Phillips lost their dad in the last few days, and went to the funeral, and Ernie was presiding and just asked that people who are friends or part of the family, the extended family of the Phillipses, that they kind of wrap themselves around them right now. They were at peace with it, and yet there's still that finality of losing a parent that I wanted to mention. I also want to send out a little kudo. Stevie Baker Watson, DePauw's Associate Vice President for Campus Wellness and the Theodore Catula Director of Athletics and Recreational Sports, has been selected as the recipient of the 2018 Women Leaders in Collegiate Sports NCAA Division III Administrator of the Year Award. She's currently a member of the Division III Management Council and will take over its chair in January 2019. Supervises a staff of more than 60 members of the athletic department that supports 650 student athletes in 23 sports. She's earned the Dennis Collins North Coast Athletic Conference All-Sports Trophy 3 times and finished second in the other 4 years. Stevie will be the first person to say that Adam Cohen and others who coach at DePauw put her in the position to receive this award, but I think it's significant, a national award for a woman in our own hometown, so I wanted to bring that up.
I'd like to add that Stevie has also done some work with Eric at the tourism office to help introduce some of the visiting teams and their guests to our restaurants and some of our small businesses. So they're working on a partnership as well.
Good.
So she's been active in the community as well as on campus.
The only other thing, Mayor, is I'd like to have you call a wayfinding committee meeting.
We're working on it.
Because that's been sitting out there for a while, and there are a lot of people who are asking me about it constantly, and I said, we're kind of on hold right now. That's it.
Okay, next item of business is approval of minutes. These are the minutes from the regular session of July 12th, 2018.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions, corrections? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item of business is approval of city claims.
Okay. The direct accounts payable, the number changed. So
Sorry, Mark.
that's okay. I had my calculator. 394,133.98. Regular accounts payable, 147,953.50. Pensions, 15,065.46, and payroll of 471,507.35, for a grand total of $1,028,660.29 for this month. On the regular accounts payable, some items of note: Christopher Burke, engineer, stormwater planning grant. I'm assuming that's about just shy of $3,500. I'm assuming that's probably a reimbursement. We'll get reimbursed later. by the grant?
Yeah, we'll be reimbursed 50% of that with the grant.
Okay, all right. Civil engineering consultants, People Pathways, just shy of $13,000 in addition to their usual contractual fee for the month. Enos Flint, street materials for $4,532. And then we had two $10,000 annual support, one for the Humane Society of Putnam County, and the other one for the Area 10 Council on Aging, which is our annual support for the rural transit, which we just discussed a few minutes ago. So on the direct accounts payable, we had civil engineering was over there for $21,000 roughly, Joe Spiker for $114,353, and First Financial for $15,203.61, which is probably a lease payment. Bond payment. Okay. Yeah. Grady Brothers, out here on Franklin Street and other places, $42,653.60, part of the resurfacing project. McCullough, excavating final bill on South Jackson Street for $76,897, and that finalized. Boy, that is nice. That railroad crossing is smooth. So, Andy Moore, we had a couple of, I suppose a couple, two police cars for $78,096. And then our regular utility payments and everything else, insurance payments added up to $46,007. And that was how it comprised of the $394,134. So I would move for approval of the claims as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the claims. Any further questions? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
We have no old business this evening, and under new business, we are starting the 2019 budget discussion. So Linda has worked to put all the information that we collected in from our department heads. And then, so I will turn the floor over to her. And then it looks like we're going to we'll be meeting with DLGF next week to get some final numbers, hopefully. And then bring a first draft to you, or first reading to you in September and second reading in October. And so we'll need to, after this meeting, schedule our budget committee that was established last month to meet probably in the next week or so. With that, Linda?
Okay, so this year we kind of have to take the budget a little bit different approach because of the way that DLGF's kind of changed things around. So Bill, Sue, and I will meet with DLGF on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And what will happen at that meeting is we will go through and kind of verify or firm up some of our revenue numbers. And then we'll kind of go from there. But what I have done is your first pages, you're going to see something called balanced budget calculation for 2019 budget. So the first thing that I did was I have gone through, and the main ones that we're looking at here are general fund, MVH, park, and cemetery. They are our main budget drivers for property tax. So I have gone through and listed off all of the funding sources that each one of these funds will receive, total dollars. So everything that is in gray, that will total up to the bottom, is what we call miscellaneous revenue. So those are all the miscellaneous revenue. The most important one that we need clarification on for the amount will be the local income tax for the general fund, which is 1.9 million. That is probably the most important number on the whole thing, because as you can see, it's 1.9 million. That is based on our county's local income tax that we receive from all of the people that work here in the county. The other ones are pretty well set.
Actually, that would be live here in the county.
Huh?
That would be, actually be live here in the county.
That's what, did I say employed? I meant live.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Lived here.
if they live in Clay and
Now
work
they
here,
pay-
they still play in
they pay
Clay.
Putnam, so-
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
But, yeah, lived here in the county.
Mm-hmm.
If it is 1.2 million, or 1.9 million, that's an increase of about $200,000. So we're hoping for that.
Good.
The other items are pretty much the same from year to year. They only go up and down slightly. Cigarette tax distribution, it fluctuates. Sometimes it's a little higher, sometimes it's a little lower, but you know, there's not a whole lot of dollars.
No.
So these are what makes up the incomes and the items.
The 1.9 is based on what?
1.9 million
Yeah.
is our local income tax.
I know, but how?
state.
Yeah.
The state provides us that number.
Oh, so
State,
Yeah.
and how would they
provides
get it?
us- I don't know, there's a.
2 years ago.
Actually, there is a formula out there.
Okay.
I will see if I can find that again, and it's based on non-farm income.
I mean, the reason I ask it, it's an important number, right?
Yeah.
It's very important, because
And,
it's
you'd like to know how they decided.
we have the.
That could be your
calculation
next book,
somewhere.
Gary.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Income excluding
Farm income.
Income.
In 2018?
27, it's an average of a couple of years.
Okay.
I will pull that, because there is a section that explains how that is put together.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask, right, is it's an important number, and the more reliable it is, the more,
Yeah, it is.
the more comfortable I come with the whole
It
thing,
is,
right?
and the thing I will tell you is, if they tell me we're gonna get 1.9 million, whatever, that is what we will get. There will be there will be no variation to that.
Now, just, what, a month or so ago, there was a special distribution for lit. Was that because of some sort of a catch-up, because there was excess revenue?
We haven't, did we receive a special?
Oh,
Wasn't there a
We
mistake?
received a small.
it wasn't very much.
Small,
I wondered,
it-
yeah,
Sometimes they'll go through and
25,000,
calculate, there
30.
would be a mistake.
yeah,
Because like
okay.
in 2012, we got a really big adjustment, you know, so
Okay.
they'll go through and calculate them up, but
Yeah.
there is a method to the madness in calculating
Yeah, I
this
mean,
thing. It's done at the state.
But they calculate it for us.
Right.
Yeah.
They give us that number, we gotta plug it in. And that's what we're gonna get,
It's a
divide by
very-
12 and,
It's a 11% increase, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good hit, so if somebody,
Well, it should be, because the more people we have working, that are living here in the community,
Yeah, okay.
is the more money we would,
Okay.
this is probably very key. The higher paid, the more people
and
working.
if I
the whole
understood
thing.
what you just said, is I shouldn't worry about it because they more or less guaranteed that's what they'll give us?
Yeah, we will get the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't
whatever
worry.
they.
I don't care how they got it. They-
right, wrong, or otherwise. I don't know if there's ever a day of reckoning. Probably not. You know, I mean, as far as, well, we,
They are not current numbers.
no, I know, they're about 2-year-old.
$100. This is from prior years.
Yes.
So they know the actual number they're giving us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's based on prior year collection of county tax.
Off of your IT-40 that you filed 2 years ago.
Oh, I don't file that.
You don't?
I do.
But yeah, I mean, it's almost $2 million, and all these miscellaneous revenues add up to about like 3.3 million. So it's well over half that total.
Right, it is,
Yeah, okay.
it's a major number.
Okay. I'm,
But it
Thank
is,
you.
once we get the
3.4.
finalized number, it is what we will get.
okay.
Okay. So then the others, we plug in. So as you can see, the total miscellaneous income is about 2.2, almost $2.3 million. Okay, so then the next line item is max levy for 2019, less property tax caps and non-payment. That's kind of the little tan line.
Gary doesn't pay that one either. That's when he was one of the non-payers of his
No, he's
property
probably
taxes.
one of those non-payers, too.
Oh, you have to pay that?
So, I kind of allocated those basically similar how we've been allocating property tax across the board for the last few years, okay? We will receive, about $3 million minus property tax, and we do get non-payments and different things that happen. Then, the yellow line, or the orangey colored line, is the projected cash reserves that is taken from the historical cash flow analysis that I gave you last month. Those are what we need to be able to have at the end of the year. And if you don't have those, they are a couple pages back to these forms here. And the number I took it from is in your little orange on your cash thing. So you'll know exactly where I took that number from. That's really an important number. So I take our miscellaneous incomes, our property tax, our projected cash reserves, and that's how much revenue that we will have come to us in 2019. or that we're projecting that we're gonna have in 2019. So then here comes the fun part. So the mayor and I met with all of the department heads. So if you turn to the next page, we'll go to the expense page. It's kind of in pretty pink and, yeah, this page here.
This one?
This one here.
Kind of almost in red.
Almost kind of red. Kind of matches Dave's shirt. Okay. So anyways, we put in to the salary estimates here a 2% raise. We have a very long spreadsheet that Sue works on for several weeks to come up with these numbers. So we have, in this, the personnel figures is a 2% raise. We also kind of got some bad news that our health insurance for the city of Greencastle projection could be as high as 19%.
Good God.
Because we had a lot of issues.
And last year it was what, 7?
5.
5.
That's new news, isn't it? You weren't expecting that.
We knew that that could happen because we've had a lot of catastrophic type illnesses. Okay, however,
Just to put that in perspective, only about 3 of our 58 employees that take insurance have met the deductible in 2017 and 2018. So,
okay, so anyways, but what will happen here is, here in the middle of the month, the AIM Medical Trust will meet, and this is the advantage of it, is they will sit down and meet, and they will go through it, and they will adjust our high claims against the lower ones, and we will probably fall someplace in 15-16% increase. But our worst case scenario, which is here, is 19%.
And this includes that 19%?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this is worst case scenario.
Okay.
It has 2% raise, 19% insurance. I will tell you that the mayor and I have sat down with, there's a whole option of insurance plans that the city can go with. We're gonna meet with the department heads. We can actually save more on insurance by going with another plan. Like the mayor said, we only have a few employees that even barely meet their deductibles, so it doesn't make sense to be paying for all of that. So we could actually have insurance that costs less than what we're paying for insurance today.
And still be part of the
And still
trust?
be the trust, yeah.
Okay.
And still have good quality insurance that has all the benefits of, you know, low cost to free diabetic care and stuff like that.
Who does the county use? Because I thought their rates did not go up last year. I remember hearing that they were flat.
Well, ours really didn't go up last year either.
I thought you said 6%.
Well, 5%, that's nothing.
they've got their coverage through,
HBG.
no, not
No,
HBC.
Hayes Murphy Sharp.
Hayes Murphy Sharp.
Brackney.
Brackney. I'm not sure who the carrier is, but that's the local agent.
But I will tell you that we will have aim for another year afterwards, and then we do go out for bid. Okay, so that's how.
So we're a year out from that.
Yeah, so we go out about every 3 years to bid on liability and health insurance, so that's where. Okay, so this is our personnel costs, and so what I've done is, this is what the personnel cost is for each of our funds or areas. So you can see my next line is just kind of a fun line that shows how much total revenue is available after personnel expense, and you can see it gets pretty low, because our highest expenses in the city are personnel. So then the next kind of little bit darker reddish area is what our department heads would like to see us be able to budget. The department heads this time were pretty adamant with us that here in the past, we've always had budgets that exceed our revenue. That's not a new thing. But it's been kind of the understanding that in reality, you're only gonna get to spend 80% of them, 85 at the most. And they would like the ability to spend 100%, to know if they spent all their budget, they're fine. So that's why we're really gonna stress the balanced budget, because if they spend over, there's a problem. So, this is where we're at right now.
Can I ask this proposed other expenses for 2019? What's the percentage increase? Was it across the board, or some got more than others? Or?
It varied a little bit.
It varied a
Some,
little bit.
most of it was 1 or 2%. Some, like for example, MVH actually went down a little bit because we had included some capital items in the previous year, and then the capital cost for some equipment was less than, the dump truck cost more this year than the roller's gonna cost next year. So you had some variances like that.
So what was the range? What was the, 1 to 5?
It was only about 1 to 2, maybe 1 to 3. It was very minor,
Yeah,
because I
very
told them, I told the department heads from the get-go that we need to try to do as minimal of an increase as possible. And some of the increases were things that we don't really have control over, like contractual services where we've got insurance or something like that.
So if you have in your, this packet here that looks like this, here, this here, called budget form or budget form 1, budget estimates. This is detailed of what makes up that $4.8 million. And it lines out every line item, like hiring fees, salaries, insurance, membership, and everything per department, and then per street department, park, cemetery. So this is kind of for you to set and take a look at all the spelled out items of the budget. So this is how.
So the personal services number will be in that top,
Yes, it will
kind of
be the
mauve-y
top.
colored box. The other two, the supplies and the services charges, and if there's any 400s or whatever they're called. That'll be in the darker colored
Yeah,
box.
everything that is made up as total expenses from personnel, they'll all go through and it will all total this 4.8. And it's all listed by line item in each one of these. So you can all take a look at what the proposal is. And then the all-important cash reserve number is, at minimum, we need 15% of our budget. So that is 15% of the number.
15% of the number above?
Of the budget number.
Okay.
Of the 4.8. There may be a little rounding error, so you might find things being off a couple dollars, but we're talking a couple dollars.
Yeah.
So the total expense and cash needed for the general fund is like 5.5 million, for MVH 1.8 million, parks 776,000, and the cemetery 381,000. When you then bring it down to the total revenue, which is on the previous page, you will see that we are going to have to make cuts to the, or come up with more cash reserves of $704,000 for the general fund. MVH is broke even, in my opinion. It's close to even. The park, we are gonna have to reduce the budget of $119,000, and the cemetery of $89,000. So we will then sit down with our budget committee, plus our department heads, plus there's funds like Public Safety Lloyd that we are gonna have to take money out of to help cover some of these shortfalls that, we have in police and fire and things like that.
So over here on the miscellaneous revenue, we don't have the public safety light shown?
No, because it has to be in its own fund.
Okay, that's why I just realized when you said that, I thought, oh, it's not over here.
No,
So,
it's not it cannot be in the general fund anymore. It's
Okay.
its own fund.
thank goodness we've
You
got
passed
that.
the wheel surtax.
Yes, and it
And
is
it,
in.
and it didn't get implemented, is that correct?
It did not get, yes, it is going to get implemented next year.
We're sure.
And it is, yes, for sure.
We thought we were sure last year.
I have verified it with both parties, the DMV and with the Department of Revenue, and it's on the calendar. I mean, it's ready to go. It's in the queue.
And it is showing, that figure is the $384,352 on the gray box under MVH.
Oh, we're under MVH.
Yeah, because it's MVH.
And we're also, it's a separate item as I understand it, but we're also gonna get 100% of the TIF money, right?
but TIF money can't be spent on any of this.
Yeah.
Understand,
Yeah.
but we're just,
Yeah, that
we
is.
didn't get
has-
that last year. We passed something that didn't get
That's gonna
implemented.
be
I want to
that.
make sure we get 100% this year.
So there's gonna be some work for the budget committee and the mayor and the clerk treasurer to get this balanced.
Can I resign now?
So
from the
across
budget
the
committee?
board, it's $1 million.
Across the board, it's probably about $1 million.
I just did a quick math, yeah.
Now, I will tell you, my yellow line down here, we will have to pass a resolution amongst all this budget stuff that is also going to have to reduce our 2018 budgets by the amounts that I have listed there. Also.
Why?
Yeah, say that again.
Because our budget is over, and if you look at your historical cash flow, we need to have those cash reserves at where we can have them. So you'll see those figures there.
Okay, and that's in the lighter yellow number,
Yeah, the lighter number.
the lighter yellow box
Yeah,
on
that's
the,
the difference to get us to the cash flow based on our current budget being over how much cash we're receiving in.
and if we do that, we're still seeing that our
Yeah,
our
we
cash
still-
reserve at the end of 2018 would be down to 17%, which is still okay because it's above 15, but
Yeah.
historically, it's been in the mid-20s.
Right. Now, if we take it away anymore, or we want it higher, then of course we're gonna have to make more cuts
Well,
this year.
of course, yeah.
But we'd make less cuts this year, but.
And you've been preparing us for this
Yep, I-
piece of bad news by giving us these projections
Yeah, so,
about
I
twice a
mean-
year, and
Yeah, we see it dip and then it comes up a tad bit, now it dips, but the reality is we're not getting revenue as quick as expenses are expanding.
Yeah.
You know, electricity goes up, insurance goes up, employees' salaries go up a little bit, so.
fuel cost goes up.
And DLGF kinda, I could always play a shell game, but even with the shell game, by the way we've done it, we've never really had a balanced budget. We've always had a budget bigger than our revenue, and we just always assumed that you spent 85% of the.
85, no more than 90, yeah.
Yeah,
And by the fact that the budget, that the department heads want to spend 100%, throws everything off.
right. So we're gonna have a couple of tough years here to get everybody back to that, but eventually it should get,
But this is better because we're dealing with real numbers.
yeah, we're dealing with that. I mean, the reality of it is.
I've got a definition, and this may be my problem, but I'm looking on the first page, right?
Okay.
When I think of revenue, I think of a flow, January 1st to December 31st, a flow number. And so when you say revenue total, I would interpret this as cash available, is that correct? Because,
That's probably better.
right, because you're including a beginning cash balance, so that's really not a revenue, right? At least
Oh,
by
the
my
reserve, the
Yeah.
cash reserve? Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
means that this 4.8 million is really cash available for the year.
Yes.
Okay, so that's just my definition.
That would be
The
our money we would-
the revenue would be the,
Right, right,
the
right.
school bus yellow colored line and the gray line.
Right.
So,
Right,
yeah. Or, no, I'm sorry, the gray line and the light gray line.
And, obviously I haven't had time to,
Right, you guys haven't had time to look at this.
but, my initial reaction is, I hear, oh, we're sort of in trouble here. But, the biggest revenue generator went up 11%. We're only giving people 2% raises, but yet we're in trouble. What am I missing?
Well, we would have always had this little decline. So we've not always had a balanced budget. So this is just a different way of still looking at where we've needed to be.
And really, the biggest revenue generator is property taxes.
Well, it depends on how you split it out. I mean, it's approximately $3 million.
Yeah.
And it only went up 3.4%.
So they are, and we have to use their figures.
Yes, yes.
Again, they tell us
The
what.
property taxes figured how it's figured, and that's what we're gonna get, nothing more.
If the department heads were not asking to spend 100% of their budget, would we have this problem?
Yes,
Yes.
because DLGF has changed their rules.
Yeah.
You can no longer go from a budget that is unbalanced. You now have to have a balanced budget.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much that's how what they're forcing us to have a balanced budget.
2018 and 2019 are sort of a odd year because we have to make these adjustments. hopefully moving forward, like with 2020, if we have a consistent 15% cash balance and our revenue numbers are correct based on what, there's no shortfalls after DLGF gives us our numbers, then our department head should be able to spend 100%. Now, again, we're not always flush with money, but the other thing too is, over time, and I've mentioned this before, that we're probably gonna have to shift some of our operating expenses of our police and fire departments to the public safety Lloyd. These first couple of years, we focused on capital expenses. We've not used any of that money for general operating salaries, insurance, or miscellaneous supplies.
So in my own naive way, we're forcing our department heads to spend 100% of their budget? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they will always be requested to spend less. Just because it's in the budget doesn't mean they have to spend it if the expenditure isn't necessary. So, for example, if the fire department doesn't spend their budget, their cash balance would go up for the following year.
Okay.
Right, so if they spent less, you spend less, then you're gonna build your cash reserves so the next year you could potentially have a little more to spend, if you needed to spend something. Now, the nice thing is there's other funds that we get money in that we can use. Some of this stuff in the past we have spent out of the general fund or the park fund or the cemetery, that they will still be able to, buy certain things.
Well,
So it's not use it or lose it.
No, it's not use it or lose it.
Never has been.
I know I've asked this question before, but I'll ask it again. What is the rule on carrying cash balances? Is this a state rule that we have to have 15%, or is this just a prudent rule?
It is just the rule that they recommend that.
They being?
The state.
Okay.
State Board of Accounts recommends that you carry DLGF, you carry 15, some communities carry 25%. But at this point, I don't think we're at the 25% level, but 15 would get us by.
Okay.
So I'm not having to rob Peter to pay Paul out of the water department to make payroll.
Yeah, I just wanted.
Kind of thing, but 15% will give us by.
The state thinks that's a good number, I think it's a good number.
So, the reality, it should be 20% or 25, but 15, I think we can get by with.
So when you talk about needing to come up with $1 million in the 2018 budget, from where?
Well, we're gonna take a good look at public safety Lloyd.
That's what I was gonna say.
Police
Thank
and
goodness we
fire.
have that pot of money now.
Thank goodness for public safety Lloyd. Let's hope it never goes away.
Didn't it double this year?
It did go up some,
Yeah.
but there's a possibility we're gonna lose some
We're
back to the
gonna
county.
lose between 180 and, what we projected to get next year, we're gonna lose 180 to 200,000 because the county's gonna
Take
keep
some
that.
of it back.
Good thing we took 100%.
Yeah, but again,
But again, we can't.
I know, but
I mean,
as Gary likes to say, money is fungible.
in this case,
Great word.
that's not entirely.
That's not entirely
Yeah,
true.
well, at that point, it's not.
Whatever it means.
So public safety, Lloyd,
Public safety Lloyd, we will look at insurance, seriously look at insurance. We can get probably 100,000+ there out of insurance.
Does the wheel tax figure in, or have we
The wheel
already-
tax is already in there, MVH is already in there. So MVH, we're not gonna have to look at much, it's pretty well set. There's other funds that we can buy equipment out of, if we have any of that for the park or the cemetery. And then we'll just have to sit down and think. The other thing that I did, because I think it was discussed a few months ago or weeks ago or last couple council meetings ago, is how I come up with the park and cemeteries receipts. On your very last page, you should see kind of some history of the park receipts and the cemetery receipts. We usually budget for the park $85,000 and the cemetery $75,000. You will see that normally the park does a little better than that, but this year, even though we had a pretty good summer, they just barely went over 85,000. And
There really won't be much in the last 5 months of
they
the
don't
year,
get
4 months
much
a year.
in the last part of the year, and they've got, what, 5 days till the pool closes? So it's not like we're gonna be making up $16,000 or anything like that. So, I think, we'll be able to cut in the park budget. Just a few things is, we budget pretty heavily for lifeguards and aquatic center people. The reality is we only spend about $65,000-$70,000, so we will budget more like that lines rather than $100,000 for that.
I've gone through and identified over $400,000 in cuts or cost shifts that we can do, and that was just sort of a cursory first pass at this. For example, in the MVH, if instead of buying the roller with MVH funds, we can buy it with CCI or CCD funds,
So then
which
we
we've
would-
used for equipment in the past.
Which we would then take that out of, we would take property tax away then from MVH and put it into one of the other places, so.
The receipts, how, it seems, and we just have a short history, but from the pool alone, we've lost, what, $12,000, $13,000, 17 to 18, between pool receipts and swim lessons? Do we have anything to attribute that to?
I just got these numbers
Yeah,
this
you'll have to
afternoon, so I'll have to talk to
about it.
Rod and see what was
I
going on.
mean, I know when we had talked originally, we talked about sort of having department heads come up with goals for throughout the course of the
Well,
time or for the year, and,
Well, and one of them for Rod was to try to, equalize expenses with,
oh yeah, nobody's saying you have to make,
yeah.
you won't make money running a park,
Yeah.
right? But, losing revenue in concessions, right, that's the stuff that I don't understand how that happens.
Well, it's not necessarily losing money, it may be just, revenue's down. I mean, because what you don't see here, you see just the revenue side, you're not seeing the expense side.
Well, yeah,
But I will tell you, because I just looked it up, we spent $62,000 in salaries for the aquatic center. So, without even taking into consideration the electric,
Chemicals.
water, chemicals, any of that, we're already in the hole.
Does the 62,000 include the social security taxes, and so that's even more?
No, does it? No.
So that's
Yeah, that's
lifeguards, concession workers, pool manager.
Assistant pool people, lifeguards, concession people. That is not lawnmower people, that is not part-time people, that's not Sparks people, that's just people that are at the aquatic center. And that was as of our last payroll, which is tomorrow. It was 62,000, and we will still have another week or two.
I know this will come up later on, but one of the things that was stated at a park board meeting is that our admission prices at the aquatic center are quite a bit lower than surrounding areas. So we may have to look at an increased admission price. I mean, it's one thing to, okay, it's $5 to get in here, and it's $10 to get in at, say, Plainfield. We may have to go to $7, or something like that. I mean, this came up at a park board meeting when people from out of town came in asking for free passes for a giveaway. So.
Well, I think one thing, if you kind of look at it, except for 15, I think one of the years we had, but I think we've kind of seen pool receipts go down. I think any given day you can go see families at the free splash pad. And I think the splash pad, and I know it has to be free for a certain amount of time, correct?
Yep, I think forever.
Forever.
That's a certain amount of time. Not really.
But anyways, it does cause an additional, Rod has to put a lot of parts into that. And it does take some chemicals, and it does take water. So there is expense to that we are not getting any money back in return. And I think it is also, if you can go over there and have your little kids play in the splash pad for free, or pay $15, $20 to get in the pool, what are you gonna do? You know, so I think we're starting to see the splash pad having an effect on the park pool.
Well, and,
We knew it would. I mean, it was contemplated.
yeah. Well, and the one thing this really stands out, it's a very small revenue generator, but why in the world did swim lessons go down 75%?
Well,
You
we're
know?
gonna find out.
Yeah.
We're also realize that we're seeing more competition. The high school pools across the county are offering swim lessons too. And we were talking about that this afternoon, and if the cost is the same, and you go to one of the enclosed pools where you don't have to worry about being cold in the morning and things like that, it may be more conducive. So the question next year may be, do we even bother with swim lessons?
Right.
You know, I mean, if I were a parent and my kids, you know, it's 60, 70 degrees in the morning, which it is sometimes in early June.
Sure.
And the pool water hasn't quite warmed up yet. Going inside where I'm not gonna miss a day because of weather, that might be a reasonable option to consider.
And then, of course, we did cemetery, and of course, cemetery.
Cemetery will have revenue.
Cemetery will continue revenue, and I think they're gonna easily hit their, I have a feeling they'll be pretty consistent hitting their $82,000. One thing to note about that is only 50% of what they actually collect.
The other 50% goes to their
Other go to ground improvement.
capital funds.
Yeah, so if we ever needed to if we needed more revenue to generate in there, you know, then we take a look at, we're gonna have to use some of these other funding areas that more of that revenue is going into, so. So that's kind of in a summary, it's, as I say a lot, it's gonna be fixable, doable. It might be a little painful for this year, maybe a little bit next year, but it's not something that we cannot fix and still run the city.
We have a pretty nice, I checked on the balance in the public safety Lloyd, and this isn't exactly it, but we've got somewhere about $1 million saved up in public safety Lloyd. Now, part of that is for one of the new fire trucks, but still, we've been very, very conservative with that fund because we want to make sure we got our capital items caught up, which we, for the most part, have, other than, you know, the regular vehicle purchases. But we've done a good job of getting, you know, the breathing apparatus and some of the other things done that we needed to do. So the police department's pretty well set. We've got some lesser expenses at the fire department, but some of the major things we've gotten accomplished these last couple of years. So in that fund, it's going to be both a combination of, you know, what revenue we have in, you know, do we want to pay 100% for something up front, or do we want to, you know, take out a small loan? You know, for example, if we order the fire truck this year, we'll have to put a deposit on it, but we don't have to pay for it until it's delivered. So that will probably be sometime next year. So part of that fund will be managing the cash flow as well.
I'm about to reveal a secret of teaching economics. I say this all the time. In fact, the only thing I do say in class is there's no such thing as a free lunch. And the reason it sort of scares me here is health insurance. I've heard health insurance, we can probably save $100,000 on the health insurance, which means to me, if I interpret that, is there will be less benefits for
The only thing that changes on the health insurance is the deductible amount. And the deductible amount is not that unreasonable, because we ask our insurance, it's not out of line. We ask our health insurance to tell us how many of our employees made that, and what they tell us. There was only a couple of them that got to
It's
the deductible.
less than 5% of our employees.
So the deductible would go from what to what?
So it'd go like from $2,700 to $3,500.
Is that for an individual or
Yeah,
family?
that's for individual. Now, we
Family
will
would be-
give the option to pay the difference if they wanted to stay on the plan that we currently have. Now, the other thing that we're gonna have to do with our employees, to help manage healthcare, is we've got to educate them, and that's something we're gonna have to do here, is if you got the sniffles, try to stay out of the ER. Because we still have an awful lot of employees that are visiting the ER versus the prompt care versus virtual visit, because we now have the option of virtual visit. And that's a huge cost driver, is that you come up with something and you go to the ER instead of taking advantage of our immediate cares, or wait till the next morning to the doctor, or, the virtual business. So we've got to do a better job, us, the mayor and I, doing a better job in educating our employees on, you're gonna have to help us maintain health care here, or you're gonna see this, because you can't go to the emergency room if it's not really an emergency. Of course, go to the emergency room if it's an emergency, but, not just for common, ordinary things.
I mean, but, the reality is, and they found this in some of their other communities, is from 9 PM to 6 AM or 7 AM in the morning, the only health care available in the community is the emergency room. Because prompt care closes at 9, and then they don't reopen until the following morning. So, if we can discourage people, if they can make it to the following morning, if they're become ill at night, okay, or, we'll probably have some conversations with Dennis Weatherford to see if they have any plans to extend the hours of the prompt care as well.
Talk about increasing the deductible. Is that a burden that we would ask employees to bear? Right, it's $800 more on employees, right?
And of course,
It's $800 to somebody making $33,000 a year is, it's a lot.
Yeah, would be my point.
Well, the thing is, though, with our health insurance, a couple of really positive things about our health insurance is, one, all of your preventative care is covered at 100%. So, if you have kids and they need immunizations, they're covered at, baby wellness care, that kind of thing is all covered. The other thing is, if you have our insurance and you're diabetic, all of your diabetic items are covered at 100%. You don't spend a thing on them. You don't have to meet a deductible. You can have nothing and you get your thing. So those are two really good options that I think has caused us not to, a lot of our employees, because we have a lot of people that have that we're not meeting our deductible. They're not meeting there because that major expense is being taken care of.
Can I say something?
Yeah, she deals with insurance all the time with them.
One other thing that a lot of our employees do not take advantage of, and if we went to the buy-up, say we went to, if we went to the higher deductible plan now, which would cost us less, and the employee decided that they wanted to do the buy-up into the plan that we have right now with the lower deductible, the difference in the amount for the individual would probably just about be the same for the whole year if they took advantage of doing their annual physical and getting their $50 back from United Healthcare, from doing the health survey and getting $25 back from the United Healthcare, and there's another $25 for doing tasks, so many tasks. If you complete those 3 things, you get $100 back from United Healthcare.
You get a $100 gift card.
And that would just about cover the cost of the buy-up for an individual.
And do the city employees understand this? Do we educate them?
Every chance we get.
The thing that the university does, and maybe it's just not possible here, is the deductible is graduated. So the people who make the least amount of money have the lowest deductible, and the president will have maybe 4 or 5 times that amount. So, if you are making $10 an hour, your deductible will be much different than if you're making $40 an hour.
Then that's understandable at the university level because your fluctuation in salaries is so dramatic.
Right.
But not at the city. Our salaries are not dramatic enough to, even from the lowest employee to the highest employee, is really not enough to be able to justify that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think we're probably at about 28 to about 60. I mean, that's our, and the majority of them fall at the 34, 35 to 40 range.
I'm not even sure you could do that for a governmental
I don't think
policy.
we can. I don't think that that's an option.
And the
but
2% increase is across the board?
for everybody.
Everybody gets 2%. Means a whole lot more to the people who have
But before before they do this, I can do an analysis to show each one of the medical groups as to how much it's going to cost additional for each plan, so that if you look at each plan, you can see how much is it going to cost an employee, how much is it going to cost employee spouse, how much is it going to cost employee child, and how much is it going to cost a family additional to buy up.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, we were gonna do that anyways, as we go through the analysis. Plus, we're gonna discuss it with the department heads and, see, so.
Do we need to set a budget meeting, or we'll just connect over email, or?
If we can set one for the three of,
One last thing with the insurance, did your savings include, we have several employees that do not take sick leave?
well, I didn't get into that, but right off the bat for this year, you know, my yellow line that I said we're going to do, the budget, because I do have those figures here. So for instance, we need to do budget cuts of $598,000 out of the general fund. Healthcare alone, by the folks that don't actually take healthcare, and the reduction in what we budgeted, I can take out $261,744.
We budget for everyone.
We budget insurance for everyone.
And we try to be very conservative as to, okay, this employee, if this employee's lost their insurance that they have elsewhere, what would they need to bring to the city to have insurance? So it's not just put in at employee only. It's put in at family, it's put in at employee spouse, employee child, across the board.
And it's mixed up, so like, if, like in my department, I have a single, a family, and an employee spouse, and only one person in my department takes the insurance. So if somebody else in another part of the general fund needed my part, then it would get transferred around. So that's where the savings comes in.
Just made up 40% of the shortfall right there with that
Well,
statement.
I made up 40% of the shortfall for this year's budget, so.
Right.
That, there's a lot that comes out of the general fund because it's police, fire, and all that. I don't get that, quite that big of a bang out of the other departments, because we already kind of adjust theirs anyways, but it's pretty doable.
How much does the city pay and how much does on average, I realize?
It's 90% city and 10% employee.
For an individual right now.
Yeah, that's-
Employee only.
Yeah.
$66 a month.
Okay.
And we also, to encourage health savings accounts, we pay $53 a month into their health savings account.
$636 a year.
So when you think about it, for that employee only, they're paying premiums of $66 a month and we're giving them $53.
I hope they understand, the city employees have access to this information.
They do, because what happens is, in January, because we do Section 125, we have an American Fidelity representative come in and they give them a really nice printed out form, and when they came in and started doing that for us, our employees realized how much insurance the city was paying for them, especially the family ones, and they're like, wow, I didn't realize you guys paid so much. So.
Office insurance is a complicated industry.
Yeah. But, so I think that now that the employees realize that we pay a lot of their insurance, now we just have to help them, educate them, and how to best use the insurance to keep our insurance costs down.
We did have our insurance review, and they went through a whole host of parameters with us. And really, other than the major cases that we've had, we've done pretty well across the board. Other than maybe a little overuse of the emergency room because we're a rural community and don't have access to other options. But the other items were all within sort of the regular parameters of other communities our size and the overall pool.
Obviously, there's a lot more discussion to take place.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
given where we are tonight, I move that we adjourn.
If we can set a budget committee
Yeah.
meeting, that would be
Yeah.
before we do that, but yeah. We looking late next week? When do you meet with DLGF?
When is it you meet?
I meet with them at Tuesday at 11 o'clock. So Tuesday will be out because I'm sure, I don't know if you guys want to come to the other meeting, so.
Wednesday,
Wednesday, the 22nd.
We do morning or afternoon or
Evening.
After work.
evening, after work time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday, the 22nd?
Or no, you're talking that week or
it doesn't matter if.
we're talking the week of the 20th or
Actually, if you could.
probably the end of
Can we
next
do
week,
this,
right?
can you do 15th?
Wednesday, the 15th, yeah, I can do that.
The sooner the better, because
Is that Wednesday?
the council meeting will be here before, and there's a lot of stuff that has to be put into a
We could do, I'm free that Thursday, too.
Thursday would be fine.
Okay. I've got
The sooner the better,
tickets
so
to
the rest of us can.
Playhouse one of
can-
those nights.
Yeah,
I
and
just
then
don't know
sooner
which
the
night.
better, and then,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm trying to remember
council,
what nights I've committed to.
do you
to
want us
park
to then
cars.
call a special meeting to go over it, rather than trying to, because we'll have to have a public hearing and first vote on.
In September?
In September.
There's a lot to digest.
Well, that's the
I'm
13th.
thinking it's probably smart for us to have a special session just on that one topic.
Is Monday, is that correct?
The 13th of September would be our next council session.
Right. But I mean, I think we really do need to call a special session.
Yeah.
To go through what the committee and department heads and everybody's come up with.
About September,
Because that way, it should be, if everybody's kind of in agreement, we just go through it.
what about September 6th, Thursday, September 6th for a special council meeting?
So we're going to do budget committee next week, Wednesday or Thursday?
That is the 14th or 15th, right?
15th or
15th or
16th.
16th.
Or 16th. I could do either one as long as we don't start too early, like 6:30 or something.
Okay. We'll just hold one of those and look at your,
Yeah.
I guess, calendar for play stuff, and we can go from there.
What dates are we talking about? I don't have my calendar with me.
We haven't come up with a special session yet, so how about if we have a budget committee meeting, and then we can then send out an email to set up a special session, we'll advertise that.
Give several dates and
Several days out there. Are we doing Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday or Thursday,
Wednesday or
depending on
Thursday, they're
Bill.
going to check their calendar when they got to get to play.
Yeah.
Emailing. Good deal.
I second Dave's motion to adjourn.
Dave Murray. Away.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. I assume there's no further discussion, so please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.